In this lesson, we'll learn about action centers and fall-offs and how they can be used to modify the tools that we use in Modo. So when we're working in Softimage, we can change our axis that we're using, our center and pivot, and we can do that right under the transforms. There are things like global, local, center of geometry that we can select to change sort of how our pivot is oriented and how we can use it. Here in Modo, though, we have even more flexibility in temporarily creating pivots that we can use, especially in modeling, and they're going to combine in with other tools. So let's see how that works. So we're going to choose this little dinosaur, and I'm going to go into a polygon mode. And again, we don't have anything selected, so that means we're going to be working with all of the polygons. So right now, if I hit the E key to go to rotate, I'm going to rotate it from the center of the geometry. But let's say that I don't want to rotate it from the center. Maybe I want to rotate it from somewhere else. We can use our action centers to define where we can rotate this from. So we come up to the top under Action Center, and I'm just going to choose Automatic. And now when I click in the view, you can see that my pivot moves down to wherever I clicked. If you look over here in the tool pipe, you can see we've got the Rotate tool here, and then we've also got an Action Center added to the mix. So this is what we talk about when we talk about the tool pipe. This is what we mean. These are combining together to get the effect that we have. So now I can rotate it from the feet, or maybe I want to rotate it from the head. I just click up on the head and I can rotate it from the head. So I can very quickly create a custom pivot to rotate that object around. Instead of trying to figure out or move the pivot or figure out where it needs to be, I can just click and add that pivot. So very useful. If you want to drop the tool, you hit the space bar, but you'll notice that the action center stays. If you want to drop your action center as well, you can hit the escape key to do that. Otherwise, it can stay for your next tool. Now, we can also use action centers with specific polygons instead of everything. So let's maybe select a few polygons on the back of our little dinosaur here, but then let's also select some maybe out on the legs, maybe some the neck, maybe a couple up here. Okay, so if we were to go in and let's say use the automatic and choose move, and anywhere we click, you can see all of these polygons that we've selected are moving the same direction in the world axis. So they're all moving up, or they're all moving to the right. And maybe that's not what we want. Maybe like in Softimage with the local, we want them to kind of move along, in this case, along their own, out from the surface, basically. And so to do that, we can come in, and let me drop that action center, and we can select a different action center. So let's go in and select a local action center. Let's go back in and click in the view. And you can see, actually the pivot is up here, but you can see that all these are actually now moving along their own axis. So they're moving out from the geometry. So you can see the ones on the back are going in different directions than the ones on the side as far as the world goes, but they're all moving out or in. And so that local action center can give you the ability to move those components in and out from the surface versus moving them along a particular world axis. And so all you have to do is change that. And you can see that it's listed over here as your action center and action axis local, along with transform move. So there's actually lots of different action centers available, and if you're interested in knowing more about all of these, you can check those out in the help, and that'll give you a nice list of what exactly each action center will do. Some of them are pretty straightforward, origin, and some of them will require a little bit more explanation probably. Okay, so let's talk about fall-offs now. Fall-offs are going to allow us to change how the tools we use affect the geometry across its surface. Okay, so this is going to give us kind of the ability to create our own deformers, whereas in Softimage you would go into model, modify, deform, and then you'd create like a bend. Here we can kind of create our own bend that's custom to how we want it to work across the surface. Okay, so the first thing I'll do is grab a fall-off. I'm just going to choose a linear fall-off, and I'm just going to drag it from the front to back. So kind of back to the tail. You'll notice there are two handles here. We can move either one of these handles. One has a very tiny end, one has a very large end. And so all this is saying is whatever tool we use this with, not a lot's going to happen over here. This is going to be the effect of the tool is going to be lessened as it gets down to this point, and then it's going to be at full strength over here on this side. So if we were to go to rotate, you can see the back part of our dinosaur is rotating based on that linear fall off, and the front side is not. What's nice though is I've got this still rotated. I can go in live and move this fall off. So I could say, okay, I don't want the legs to move, I just want the tail. So I'm going to move this fall off back here. So anything in front of this is not going to be affected at all. I can go back in and still rotate. I can see, okay, the back of the legs are still moving, so I'm just going to take this up a little bit more. And you can see this rotating here. You can combine this as well. So we've got the fall off and the rotation, but let's say I want to rotate it from more up here. We can go get our automatic action center and move the rotation back right to the tail. Now we've combined our fall off with our action center to create our own deformer to spin that tail around. And a lot of the tools in Modo are going to be kind of presets of these combinations of different action center with a tool with a fall off. And so they'll kind of put together these presets for you to use. You can see some deformers here, or you can put those together on your own and create your own custom tools with fall offs. Let's drop the tool. You can hit escape to drop that fall off and the action center. Now we can also use fall offs with other kinds of tools. So let's say we want to create a kind of spike up here, but we want it to be sort of angled. So what I'm going to do is start with a fall off, and I'm going to choose a radial fall off. Let's just drag this out. So I want it to be, this is kind of a sphere shape. And so I actually want it to be kind of up here. So I'm just going to move it into position. Okay, and then I want to run bevel on these polygons. So we're going to go to polygons and bevel, remember Shift B, so we'll hit Shift B to bevel, click in the view. I'm going to pull this straight up. So we've got this bevel here now. Now I'm going to take the fall off. I'm just going to reduce it a little bit so it's right around there and flatten it down a little bit, and then I'm just going to move it back. And you can see as I move it back, the front of this is not being beveled as far up as the back. Even if we kind of pull this up, you can see it's being affected by the edge of that fall off. So we can make a nice tapered spike there just by moving that fall off when we do our extrude. Okay, so all that was a combination of the bevel tool along with our radial fall off, and then we just move the fall off while we're creating the bevel to get the exact effect that we want. And then when we're done, we can just drop the tool, drop out of our fall off, and we've got our little spike added to our dinosaur. So by combining, again, action centers and fall offs with your tools, you can make very, very powerful tool combinations yourself using the tool pipe, or you can use the presets that Modo provides. So the next thing that we're going to talk about are materials. So adding materials, how we can set those up and start to add textures and things like that. So we'll talk about that next.